Okay, Terry Runyan here, creative encourager and visual artist. And today I am going to do a video about how I use Procreate. This video is for people who haven't used the app before and just want to get started. As I'm shooting this video, it is Catterday, or you might want to call it Saturday, and I am doing my daily creating for the daily creating group, which is going to be cats. And I've got a little drawing that's very loose. I didn't want to make it very complicated. I may end up only doing one cat because I don't want to make this a 2-hour video. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my camera and get started with the app. I'll be talking as I'm working, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Procreate app. I have it down here on my dock. And obviously I've got a lot of cats that I've worked on in the past. If you're just starting this program, you probably don't have anything showing up when you click on Procreate besides the example work that they have when you open the app. And I found those very useful to watch. They have an instant replay on them where you can watch how they were created, sped up of course. So to begin with, you're going to want to know how to create a file. So the first thing you're going to do as you open the app is go up to this plus sign right here, say plus, and I use a fairly large canvas. I use a canvas that is normally 5800 by 5800 px. I'm going to go ahead and create that again so you can see how I do that. You go down to the create custom size, click on that, 5800 pixels by 5800 at 300 dpi. I usually don't title my work before I start. I never quite know what's going to happen while I'm creating, and usually after I've created it, the idea will come about how it should be titled. So I need to tell you this 5800 by 5800 pixels at 300 dpi is a really big file. It creates like a 20 by 20 inch 300 dpi file when you download it. The bigger the file is, the less layers, and I'll talk about those as we go along here, that you'll have to use when you're creating your work. So if you want to have a lot of layers to work on, you'll want to keep your file size smaller so that more layers will be available for that smaller size. So here's my screen. I'm going to start by telling you that there's a lot of finger gestures in the Procreate app that you can use. I might mention a few as I go along, but you can know that I'm going to link to the Procreate manual in the comments below. So anything you want to learn more about will be in that manual. Now when you open up your new canvas, you're going to see this white background, and up on the top it says gallery. But each one of these is a line. This is a selection tool. This is a move tool to resize things. You got your brush, your smudging tool, your eraser, and this is your layers tool. If you click on that, you can see you're going to have layers. If you add a layer, you click on the plus. You look at your background as like it's your piece of paper. And then each layer on top of that would be like, say this one. Let me grab my pencil. I've got it on black. Right here you get to choose your colors. If you click on this, right now I have it on black. On the brush tool, you can click on that. You have all these brushes that come with the app. Procreate is stocked this program with tons of great brushes, so I wouldn't worry about getting custom brushes to begin with. That's something you can add on later. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose one of their brushes that comes with the program. I clicked inking. I've never used this brush. It's called the marker brush, and I'm going to use my pencil. You can also use your finger. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit this back arrow right here, and that will undo the thing you just did. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pencil, and I'm just going to make a line just so you see what I'm doing here. And then click on the layers again, and that line is going to be on my first layer that I'm working on. If I turn this layer off and on, the line I just drew will disappear and come back. So if I want to draw something else on this and I don't want to affect this line, I would need to work on a new layer. And I'm going to use a different color so you can see what I'm doing here. And let's use a different size brush. I'll use the same brush but bigger. And I'm going to draw something now over the top. And you can see that that layer right there is on top of the layer underneath. If I hold that layer, click on it with one finger, and then I can move it down below, now the black line is over the top of the red line. So that's how you build up your layers in Procreate. And know that you can always turn off layers. You can swipe to the left and delete, duplicate, or lock a layer. Right now I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. And when you open your app, it comes with one layer and a background. I usually always work on a colored background when I'm working on Procreate. And I usually put a bit of texture in there so that it's not just a plain background. And you can build textures and have those in the background of everything you use. You can go get that texture from another canvas that you made and import it into this one. There's a lot you can do with this program. If you click on your background layer, I'm going to go back to that, click on your background layer, you can choose what color you want this background layer to be. Know that you can change this background color at any time. Right now I'm just going to go for this pinky red color. Okay, so I've chosen a color. I go back to layers. You can see this right here. There's the color I chose from my background. Now I can use white. So I've talked a little tiny bit about the brushes. There's sketching brushes. I'm going to use an artist crayon now. I'm going to choose white by going over to this edge. If you do have a color on there, you can change the color with your finger or your pencil by going around the color wheel here. Once you've chosen a color, you can make it lighter or darker or grayer or brighter, depending on where you put this little thing within this circle. So you can tell how untechnical I am with naming things. I'll say things a lot, thingies, this thing. Hold all this with a grain of salt. If you want to learn the technical terms for things, again, I will link to the Procreate manual below. Okay, so I'm now working with a new brush. It's the Chalk Artist Crayon, and you can find that under Sketching. So I'm going to go ahead and choose white. I've already got a white created down here in this palette. Under Colors, you can click on Palettes, and there's some standard palettes that come with this app, which are right here. You can also create your own palette by clicking on this plus sign. There's a new palette right there. Here, I'll do it again. Now you got two new palettes. I always like to have my color wheel open. So what I do once I have a new palette is I will go back to Disk, and you can see I've created that one color right there because that's the color I was on. Now I can go to here, and now I've got this color on, and I can click here. So I'm building a palette. If I want white, and I always like to have black. So I've got white and black and this yellow color and this green color. And I'm going to go ahead and stay here for now and start doing some stuff on a new layer. So I've got this clean layer. If you want to reduce the size of your canvas, you use two fingers and you squeeze. If you're working and you want to get up and close and personal, you push out. So right now I'm just going to reduce it slightly so I can see the whole canvas. Another way to see the whole canvas is to take four fingers and tap, and all you have is the canvas. I like to keep my tools up so I can use them, but it's pretty easy to get them back. You just click on the little icon right here in the corner. I'm going to start with white, and I've got this chalk brush, which is a really cool texture, right? It's pretty small right now. I'm going to take away that right there and see that I can create a texture in my background. You can see it starts to repeat some. So the trick I use for this is you can change size a lot, your opacity, then go back in with an eraser tool. I'm going to go into my sketching again and reduce the opacity, and then you can come back in and erase on top. And you can mix up the brushes. Charcoal. I'm going to grab this burnt tree. I use burnt tree quite a bit. It's under charcoals. And I'm in the eraser tool now and just go in here and lighten up this pattern a little bit. We could spend the rest of this video on making patterns, and I don't want to do that. I want to get into this cat thing since it's Catterday. What you need to know about your Apple Pencil, in case you don't know it yet, is it is touch and pressure sensitive. So if I want to erase more lightly and not lose everything, I just don't put as much pressure on my pen. I'm in spray paints now, and this is the splatter tool. I love using this for background, but it kind of gives you that spray painted splatter look, as the name implies. So I'm going to go back in now. I have the splatter tool still, and I'm going to erase out. Jump on flicks just for fun and erase a little bit more out. So now I've got a textured background. This is not a textured background I would necessarily use. So I'm going to go ahead and go get the textured background I usually use from another canvas. I'm going to go back to gallery view. And right here, I have the texture I normally use, and I created this a while back. You can import that, you can take that texture and move it to another canvas. Here's the textured layer. Turn it off and on to show you. And you can click on it once and click the copy. It takes a little while. Go back to your gallery view, hit the image you're working on, and this is where you're going to need to go into these tools here. The wrench tool, if you click on that, you can click on plus and then paste. I'm going to turn off the layer below so you can see. Now I've got the texture I use on my canvas. These two canvases were the same size, so it copied and pasted perfectly. If I copied from another canvas that was smaller, it would have been smaller when it landed on this canvas. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. So yeah, this is the pattern I usually use. Here's the pattern I created with you watching. I'm going to leave that on there. I'm going to reduce the opacity of it. The quick and dirty way to do that is to click your in slide to adjust, and you can use your pencil or your finger to adjust how opaque that is. I'm feeling like I want to change my background color, so what I'm doing is I click on the background color, and I'm going to change it to, let's see, let's work in the blue range today. I really don't like this pattern, so I'm going to get rid of it and just leave it on what I like. Okay, so I'm going to go with this blue color, and now I'm going to start creating a cat. So I'm going to add another layer. I don't want to work on my inserted image. If you want to be organized, you can name these layers each time you create a new one to help keep things clear when you're working. So the way to do that is you click on it once, and there's right up here it says rename, and then you can type in texture. And then I'm going to go on to my new layer, and I'm going to say rename this cat. So now I'm on the new empty layer. I've got the white brush on, and I'm going to go choose a brush. Let's see what this 6B compressed charcoal looks like. Yeah, I like that one. It's a little smoother going on. I oftentimes make a shape and then I use the eraser tool to build the character. I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to go down to charcoals, 6B compressed, and I'm going to start creating this cat. The other way to reverse what you just did, or back up one, is to use two fingers to tap on the surface. So I'm going to do a little something, and I say, oh, I don't like that shape, and I can take two fingers and tap. That's an easier way than going back here and hitting these. If you want to move forward one, you take three fingers. So I want to get rid of it, two fingers. I want to bring it forward again, three fingers. So I'm going to get rid of it. So that's how I will be backing up and moving forward from here on out. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to continue making this shape, this cat shape. I've got this preliminary body shape and I'm going to add some ears now. The way I like to add my ears is to use the selection tool. That way I can get a better point on the ear of a cat. So the selection tool is right up here. It's a squiggly line. I'm going to click on that. And in order to make a straight line selection, you're going to click at one point, click at another point, and click again down here and back on that point. So right now you can see marching ants. Anything that's not marching right in this shape is an area that will be colored in when you get your paintbrush. So right now I'm going to color that in to create this ear. Click again and back on it. You don't actually have to click back on this dot. If you start with a new tool, it'll close that selection automatically. And go get the selection tool. I'm going to add to the selection by clicking add. So it's closed this selection. Now I'm going to add another ear. Add. So I've got a selection of 2 ears right here. I'm going to go in here and darken this background and see if you can see this better. There, gray. Okay. So you can sort of see this better. Right now this selection is very light, but it's right here. And now I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to get on the layer I want to be on, which is the cat layer. Take my brush and fill in, and it'll only fill where the selection is. Getting out of the selection, coming back. I like those ears better. So I'm going to show you how to resize this cat, because right now I can tell that it doesn't really have enough room around it. It's a little tight at the top. So in order to move this selection, I'm going to come up here and choose this move tool. It's going to move anything that is on whatever layer that you're on. So I'm on the cat layer, and I'm going to select the move tool, and you can reduce the size of your image by, once again, using your 2 fingers and squeezing in, or going out. Now, I wouldn't recommend going out, because what happens is, if you, I'll just show you. If you go off the page and then click off, click back on and bring it back in, you've lost part of your image. So Procreate chops off whatever goes outside. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to back out of this, double finger clicks, and I'm back to where I was. And select this cat again in the move tool and reduce it down a little bit. You don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, because you can come in and erase back into it to get it where you want it. Okay, so I got my cat shape. I'm going to change the color of this cat so that the eyes show up. And once again, I'm making this really simple. There's a lot you can do here, but I'm going to give you plenty to play with, and then you can keep experimenting. And like I said, the manual below will help. There's tons of great videos on YouTube. Right now, in order to change the color of this cat, I want to make it black instead of white. I'm going to click on the cat, and right here it says Alpha Lock. If you click on Alpha Lock, what it'll do is it'll lock the pixels in place so that you can't draw outside the shape you've made already. So if I go in with the black right now onto this cat, it'll only brush on the cat, because everything outside the cat shape is now locked. So I can either go in and recolor this by just scrubbing over it like this, or, which is kind of fun because I've just left those feet white, and we all love those cat feet white. And maybe I'll leave the tip of the cat's tail white. And when you do this, it kind of leaves a little bit of the white texture underneath rather than just filling it all with the color. If you wanted to fill the layer, you click on it once and you say fill layer. And all the pixels that are there will be filled. So I'm going to back up because I like my white feet. So I'm going to create a new layer and take my select tool again, because I'm going to work on the eyes now. And draw my eye shapes. I want that to be pointed, so I lift up my pencil and then continue on a little bit shy of there lift up my pencil again and choose the brush tool, which defines the shape. It might be really hard for you to see there, but there's a shape. And then I'm going to go to white and hit fill layer. So I've got my eye shape. This eye shape is a little too large for me, so I'm going to go in and get a brush, a little bit more precise, and change this eye shape slightly. So when you've got your eye shape where you want it, right now that eye is just way too big, so I'm going to reduce the size using this resizing tool here and pinch 2 fingers together. You could also make this eye wider, which I don't want, so I'm going to use my 2 fingers to click. So I've made this eye, and then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that eye. The easiest way to do that is to slide over and click on duplicate. From there you can take the move and transform tool, and down here at the bottom you can flip it horizontally. So I'm going to click on that and then move it over here. So now I've got my eyes on my cat. And what I usually do once I do that is put these layers on the same layer. I combine them. So you can do that in many ways. I'm just going to show you one. Click on it, and down at the bottom you can say merge down, and that puts the eyes on the same layer. So now I've got these eyes. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 fingers on this layer and swipe to the left and let go. Now these are locked, so when I go in to put color in the eye to make the pupil, under painting, this is a really great brush, this Nikko Rull, Nico Roll. So I'm going to use that to make my pupils. Bring my brush size down a little, which is on this side. That's for the sizing. This is for the opacity. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I'm going to go ahead and make the pupils of the cat. And then go back to my kitty layer. I've got the Nico Roll. I'm going to put a gray muzzle on this. So I'm going to go over to gray by changing this from black over to gray. I'm going to go to spray paint, splatter, reduce the size, and just lightly make a spot for the nose to show up. Then I can change back to my brush, which is under painting, Nico Roll, go back to black. If you zoom in my fingers and I push out, and I can go in really close if I want to mess with this for the details. And you can also make it smaller, of course. So that's the nose and typical nose-mouth combo that I use. And now I'm going to do some whiskers, and here's a trick. I have to unlock that layer. So in order to unlock the layer so you can draw outside of the layer, use 2 fingers, pull over and let go. So that's locked, that's unlocked. So you can see this line is wavery, right? The trick I wanted to show you is, so you got this wavery line. If you click and hold, it'll straighten that line out and you can move it wherever you want. So I'm going to back up by using 2 fingers, tap, 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 and start over by making straight line whiskers. I always have to add nails to my cats. Another way to choose color is choose your brush tool and click on the color you want and hold. And what that does is, as you move it around while holding on there, it'll choose the color that's underneath. So if I go over here and I'm on the blue, now it's the blue color. But I want this gray, so I'm going to click and hold until I get the gray I want, and that changes here. I'm going to go ahead and save that gray. Now I got my brush. I'm going to make some hairs, and you can zoom in to make this a little easier. For some reason I want to have something red on this cat, so I'm going to choose red. Go ahead and add that to my palette down here. Create a new layer to put this on. Add a little necktie to this sweet little black and white kitty. There's one more thing I wanted to show you, and that is how to move all the layers you have together as a single unit. Right now I've got my name up here. I'm going to go ahead and put that at the top area, and then right here I'm going to click on the eyeballs, and then if you use one finger and slide and release, and then again on this layer, this locks these layers together. So now when I use the move tool, the whole cat, including the eyes and the bow, move as one unit. You can also, once you have these moving together, can form a group out of those by clicking on group. Now these are all under one group, and you no longer have to choose them all to do it. You just can move them as a group. So the last thing I want to do is share this with my social media. There's many ways you can do this. Click on the tool, there's a share button right here. And you click on share. You can choose what format you want to share in. I always use JPEGs when I share my work. I'll choose JPEG. It's creating it, and then save image. So what that does is save your image to your photos, and from there you can share it wherever you want. So I hope this video has been helpful and gives you a quick and dirty how to use the Procreate app on your iPad Pro with your Apple Pencil or your finger. I will certainly be sharing more about this in the future, but for now, this will get you started, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.